Yeah, I wanted to discuss something real quick with Russian bikers in the Ukraine. Night wolves is what they call them. Now it all makes sense where Vladimir Putin did that big photo opportunity on the Harley Davidson with the trike. He was riding with night wolves, right? It's a Russian biker group. But I want to really tell you something about this deal because it's like not what you think it is. See, in the United States, you could say every biker group out there supports the USA, the American way, individual freedom, and America. But they aren't a political arm of the government. You know, that's where it's like this group is totally the exact opposite what any kind of biker group is about in the United States. I mean, I know there's like, most of the biker groups are just clubs, and then there's outlaw biker groups, and they fight over territory, but there's no such thing as an outlaw biker club or a conventional biker club that is, like an arm of the government. And this place, these guys, Night Wolves, are basically an arm of the government for Russia, for Putin. And it was very interesting, too. I think there was the Banditos or something was trying to establish something in Russia, and one of the Night Wolves was actually killed over by something, or I don't know if this is all rumor or whatever the hell it is, because they were so political. They don't like them. And to tell you the truth, that's not... It's like, in my mind, anything with bikes and motorcycles, and when you're in a club, or I'm not in a club, but I ride. I've been riding for more than a couple decades, and I have a Harley, but I'm not in a club or nothing. But everything that's associated with that is about freedom and individual freedom in the bike. It's not about being an extension of the government. As a matter of fact, you would be anti-government when they're infringing on your rights. Now, are these guys, Night Wolves, anti-government when they infringe on the rights of people in Russia? No. They're an extension of Putin. Now, I'd like to see what the heck the Night Wolves, how they make excuses for, 110 oligarchs in Russia controlling 35% of the wealth, while most of the population is poor, where they can't even afford a motorcycle. They can't afford a Ural, two-wheel drive in reverse, that'd be the damn kind of motorcycle to have in the wintertime up in Russia. And it's interesting, too, that the Night Wolves all ride USA steel, American-made Harley Davidson motorcycles, and they're from Russia. So what supposedly they are modeling themselves after is, according to what, the news sources are, is the Hells Angels. But is the Hells Angels an extension of the government? No. I mean, everybody knows this. I mean, every motorcycle club pretty much has this theme where it's about freedom. That doesn't mean you want to be a puppet of the government. Is individual freedom and riding a motorcycle, which riding a motorcycle is all about freedom and individual freedom, about the right to do what you want to do? Is that about being an extension of the government, or an extension of somebody that's a strong man in the government, like Vladimir Putin? No. Man, those guys are so far off base, it's unreal. It's ridiculous. And, they went into the Ukraine to basically intimidate people in Ukraine, along with the unmarked Russian troops that Vladimir Putin says aren't Russian troops, they're just self-defense forces. So he had, the bikers go there or something that are an extension of the Russian government. I'd love to see, it's not like something that's wrong with being pro-nationalistic or pro-Russian or pro-Slavic. But why would you want to be pro an extension of the government and the strongman of the government and the extension of the oligarchs that are basically raping the wealth of the Russian people and stealing it from the peasants? That's not what bikers are about, from my understanding. I mean, you would think a biker would be somebody that's defending the Russian people from Vladimir Putin and from the oligarchs. So I tell you right now, that's another reason I think this whole deal with Ukraine totally stinks. It's bad news. I mean, if these clowns are going in there to intimidate people at the behest of Vladimir Putin, what does that tell you? What does that tell you? You know, I actually have to add this on the end because I wasn't really going to get into too much about the Ukraine, but it was more about, originally was thinking about just talking about this biker group that I said, man, that's weird. You know, there's all this hatred and competition between biker groups a lot of times in the United States and across the world. You know, it's well known. There's territorial disputes. Everybody knows this. It's like common knowledge. But one thing that seems to be prevalent amongst all biker groups is the right to individual freedom. You know, not to be hampered by excess regulation and governmental rules. It's almost like the total opposite of being an extension of the government, which is what, you know, these night wolves are supposedly are. They're an extension of the Russian government, and Vladimir Putin is specifically. They're the exact opposite of bikers, and they go into Ukraine. I just want to point out some other little factoid about Crimea. You know, there was, you know, a lot of people say, like, now it's mostly pro-Russian, even though it's semi-autonomous. It's got it's pretty much its own little area, but it's still subjected to the national laws of Ukraine. But they're semi-autonomous, but they're more pro-Russian than Ukraine, but not 100%. It might be 50-something percent, 40-something percent. So it's not even like it's way pro-Russian. But it was during the late 1940s, after World War II, that Stalin exported a hell of a lot of people that were native to Crimea, kicked them out, and pushed in all native Russians. That's why the mix changed. And now that mix, since the fall of the Soviet Union, is changing back, and actually the Russians that are ethnic Russians aren't liking that. The Crimea is actually changing more back to a little bit of a different mix where there's less ethnic Russians. It actually became more ethnic Russians due to the forced policies of Stalin right after World War II. So, I mean, you know, people, you know, like to pull out all these factoids about the situation, but then they ignore other things too. And actually, like I said, the Crimea would not be pro-Russian if it was not for the policies of Stalin right after World War II, because he's the one that knocked out all the people that were the natives in there, kicked them out, and pushed in the Russians, which isn't that lopsided where it's pro-Russian anyway. But they're also semi-autonomous. But where I really picked up another angle here was when I saw this motorcycle group, which is not a motorcycle group in a true sense. You know, I mean, it could be any place on the earth. It don't matter what country it is, but pretty much all during, you know, throughout bikerdom, when you have a motorcycle group or club or gang, no matter if it's outlaw or whatever, it is more pro-individual rights. It's about the club. It's not about subjecting yourself to the government. It's like you are your own organization and you're autonomous. You're not working for, you know, the state of the, you know, whatever country you're from, and you don't take orders directly from whoever the strongman in the country is. But that's the case with this one club in Russia. So it's like, I don't know how the hell they say they're modeled after the American Hells Angels. I can't see that at all. I can't see that at all. That's ridiculous. It's like, you know, saying that the Hells Angels takes orders from Joe Biden and Barack Obama, and they certainly don't. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. No, you know, just another indication of what's going on in the Crimea and the heavy-handed policies of Vladimir Putin. That club is really phony, man. That's really phony. I hope the Banditos or whoever, you know, whatever club gets in there gets a lot stronger than that club, because that club is definitely not about anything to do with individual rights, freedom to ride, and You know, they definitely aren't putting the club ahead of the state. Which I can't see, you know, how they could possibly be a motorcycle club. I thought every single motorcycle club that was worth something put the club first. And everybody else was on the outside. And that includes the government, especially, and the state. Not those guys. So it's a big, big bunch of bullshit. And those are the guys that rode into the Crimea to basically try to intimidate people. So, anyway, I figured I'd throw this little news story out there because I was like, wow, that's amazing. I don't see, you know, it's a big drum, a bunch of bullshit, and they're not a motorcycle club in any respect. They're not. They ride a bike. They're just part of the state. They're part of the state. They might as well be cops. Basically in biker garb working for Vladimir Putin. It's ridiculous. That's really what they are. I don't know. Ridiculous, man.